Hi, this is George Smith from Bigger, Brighter, Bolder, the Mindset for Success. And today I want to talk to you about just one of the ways that your brain manipulates your decision-making process and manipulates you into taking action. Sometimes it's the action you might want. However, other times it may well be action that's detrimental to you or to your outcomes. So the metaphor I want to share with you today is that of like an audio mixing table. So if you imagine you've got an audio mixing table, you've got all your bass up one end, and then you've got your mid-range, and then you've got like your treble. So obviously you've got your very highest treble right up there on that end of the deck, and your very lowest bass all the way up here on this side of the mixing desk, and you've got a whole load of different kind of frequencies in between. One of the ways that your brain can manipulate you is by filtering out some of these frequencies in terms of your emotional feelings, your emotional responses. What I mean by that is really simple. Let's say, for example, that our anger or our rage and all that sort of stuff, or jealousy, all the sort of negative stuff, let's call that bass for now. And let's say our higher sort of frequencies, if like the trebles and that, are kind of our happiness and our love and our passion and all this sort of stuff. Well, one of the ways that our brain can really massively manipulate us is by giving us a false interpretation of what's actually going on out there, okay? The way it does that is it can filter out the bass. So it can filter out some of those chemicals that would make you rise up, be angry, be aggressive, or what it might be, or it could raise those up to make us more angry, more aggressive. It can filter out some of those higher frequencies, or it can bring in some more of those higher frequencies. So the model I want to share with you is the manipulation that many people have in terms of a relationship, okay? So bear with me, it will make sense, and I want you to relate this to an area of your life. It might be your relationship, it might be another area of your life. But let's use the relationship as a good example here. So you're with someone that maybe isn't very good for you, okay? Or you're not getting on well with, or it's just not quite working out, it's not gelling. Now, when you're in that relationship, your brain can be very base biased. In other words, it can be looking for all the things that aren't working, all the things that are wrong, and it can be stimulating all these kind of negative emotions within us, okay? So it kind of like boosts artificially all of that base, okay? And then what it does, it stops us being able to see maybe some of the good qualities in that person or the good qualities of the relationship, and it starts to filter those out. So what happens is, whilst the relationship might not be a perfect one, it might be a far from perfect one, actually the interpretation of the relationship that we get is based on these frequencies, okay? So in other words, every little thing that's not right gets boosted to the max. We're going to call that bass. And everything that's like good and positive gets filtered out. So what we end up with is a very bass heavy emotional feeling, emotional response, which means, of course, we feel much worse about the relationship than it actually is, okay? Now, the other thing it can also do is manipulate us the other way. So let's say you leave this relationship now because, of course, there's nothing good in it. All those frequencies are down. There's nothing good in this as far as your interpretation is concerned. It's probably not true, but there's nothing good as far as your interpretation is concerned. It's all really, really bad. You leave the relationship, so now the threat of that relationship is out the way, okay? The person's not in your life. They're not there, whatever, you know, making you feel bad or just restricting you in some way, or whatever it is that your issue might be in that relationship, okay? Then what happens with the brain, of course, is it drops all that bass out because the threat's not there. So it artificially drops all the bass out about this person, potentially, in this relationship, and then it starts to manipulate you by bringing in all the positive. So now you're starting to feel like you miss the person. You start remembering all the good times you had. You start remembering all their good traits. So now that treble starts to get artificially boosted as well. So what we end up with is a very kind of treble focused emotional response, okay? That treble focused emotional response is the one that makes us feel good and positive and happy and everything else connected to this particular person or this relationship. And now we start to feel manipulated back into that relationship. You start to doubt why you ever got out of the relationship in the first place. And what happens is you get back together 2 days in, 1 week in, 10 minutes in, I don't know, suddenly all the old niggles come back because the threat's now back. So now your brain starts to look for the threats, it starts to see all the old stuff again, it starts to do it again, and it manipulates you back out of the relationship. Now, this might not be you, but I'm sure you can relate to this as a story, okay? Many people find themselves in and out of relationships. It's kind of like we're in, we're together, we don't enjoy it, we're not happy, and everything seems really miserable and horrible. You leave, and suddenly the other person seems so attractive, and there's nothing wrong and everything else. So you get back together, and your brain keeps manipulating you in and manipulating you out. Now, this might not be your particular thing right now with your relationship, but I want you to understand your own life is being manipulated by your unconscious in a similar way. It's probably not as bad as you feel it is. Does this make sense? It's like when something feels all amazing and all great, we know this at the beginning of a relationship, sticking with the metaphor. It's all great at the beginning of a relationship. You know it's not all great. There's definitely flaws in there and there's things in there, but we overlook them because we're getting this artificial manipulation, okay, where it just seems like we're getting all the good stuff boosted, all the negative stuff gets filtered out, and then it goes the other way round and everything else. Where in your life do you feel you might be manipulated like this? If you're feeling like a catastrophizing stuff, you know, like it's all over with my business, or I really hate all my clients, or I really hate my products, or I hate the person I work with, or I hate this, or I hate my car, or I hate my house, or I hate whatever. Are you getting an honest picture with the real treble in there as well? I'm not saying there's not real bass in there. I'm not saying there's not some really bad stuff in there or some stuff in there that would make you angry or wild or make you want to get out. But actually, are you getting an honest picture, or are you just being manipulated? Are you having your emotions kind of manipulated towards the bass end, which is making you resentful and angry and everything else, which makes you want to get out? Or equally, sometimes we've been overly manipulated into something. It's something too good to be true, and we're going to be manipulated blindly, you know, we can't see the honest picture. It's really, really hard, right, in this short video to try and explain to you exactly what's going on with the human brain. However, you're massively being manipulated. You'll hear me talk about this over and over again. Really simply put, your experience of the world is based on these frequencies of your emotional responses. If you feel good about something, then you're having a good experience of the world, of course. If you feel bad about something, you're having a bad experience with the world, or with a particular aspect of the world or your life, or whatever it might be. And the truth is, we're not getting an honest representation, we're getting the unconscious's representation of it, and that can be very blinkered, it can be very manipulative based on our previous experiences in life and everything else. It's all done to keep us safe, by the way, but it can be actually really quite damaging to us because we're not able to make real choices for ourselves or real decisions for ourselves. We're being guided by our emotions, and our emotions actually are being massively manipulated by the unconscious mind. So when people say to me, you know, be guided by your emotions, I say, oh, be really careful, because your unconscious is controlling your emotions, and I'm telling you now, it can manipulate artificially what those emotions are. We don't necessarily always want to be trusting those emotions. Sometimes we want to trust our cognitive powers better. We want to really look at something and say, right, what are the pros, what are the cons, what's the honest picture here? And then we can sometimes pick our way through a lot better than maybe our gut instincts that so many people, in my opinion, overplay a little bit in the world, which is our emotional responses, which can be very manipulative and can get us into a whole load of bother. Anyway, where are you being manipulated? Where can you see this artificial thing going on in your own life? Have a think, have a look. Don't be manipulated. Don't allow yourself to be manipulated. You're the smartest person in this relationship with yourself, okay? Your unconscious isn't that clever. It's manipulating you, okay? Like a bit like a child sitting in here. That's a video for another day. But you're much smarter than that. You get to make the best choices for your life based on all the information that's available. So you want to be setting that scale yourself, if you like, rather than the unconscious setting that scale for you emotionally and then manipulating you to take the action that it wants or it thinks you should do, rather than necessarily always being the action that's best for you. Be warned, you'll be massively manipulated out there anyway, but in here is the biggest manipulator of all. Until next time, be successful.